The Popcorn Moment is coming up, brought to you by Booher Remodeling, B-O-O-H-E-R. BooherRemodeling.com. These are your professionals, especially if you want to have a basement turned into a home theater or a part of the house that you can actually use, not something that's just cold and damp and concrete. Booher Remodeling, their 5-step process from the start to the finish, from the consultation to the construction, can turn your basement into something fantastic. Yes, it can be an area for storage, but yes, it can be an area for living. And yes, it can have all the amenities. You can bring so much to that basement. Booher can help take your idea, turn it into reality. And the same thing is true with that kitchen or with that master bathroom. Whether the space is outdated or it's no longer working for you, you want to improve the layout or the function, improve your quality of life. That's really key. It's about value. Sure, some people want to do improvements so they increase the value of your home, of their home, but how about increasing the value of your life? That's what Booher Remodeling does. They do it all. Talk to Booher Remodeling today about your kitchen, about your bathroom, about that basement. If it's within the 4 walls of your home, Booher Remodeling is there to help. 317-852-5546. Tell them Tony Katz sent you. 317-852-5546. Booher Remodeling. 852-5546 or online at Booher. B-O-O-H-E-R. BooherRemodeling.com. The Popcorn Moment. Let's go. It's a story you need to hear to believe. Then grab your popcorn because there is more. We are also live streaming there on the YouTubes and on the X and all that jazz. This show on CNN seems to be the only show that anybody can talk about. It's the one hosted by Abby Phillip. And it's not because Abby Phillip is any good. She's not. She could be. She's not. And I would argue that if she really had her choice, she would never allow people like Scott Jennings back on the show. She has to hate the fact that this has become about him and how good he is and how effective he is at engaging a dismantling of progressive arguments. Well, they've also brought on as a regular guest Kevin O'Leary, a guy from Shark Tank who calls himself Mr. Wonderful, which is always a ridiculous name, neither here nor there. The show, what makes the show interesting is that here is the left trying to engage the standard lie about, well, pick the subject. They get called to the carpet. They get told why they're lying with details, with facts, with clarity. And then they continue to lie. That's what makes it so amazing. Well, Kevin O'Leary is there as they're talking about Kamala Harris, which, of course, is the conversation about Joe Biden and this book that the despicable Jake Tapper wrote. And I will get into that coming up. Simply, Joe Biden was incapable, incompetent. He wasn't running the country. I don't know who was running the country. We'll get to that. And everybody covered it up. CNN covered it up. MSNBC covered it up. The New York Times, the Washington Post, Indiana Democrats. Everybody told you that Joe Biden was fine. They told you about cheap fakes and all the rest. They all lied. They lied. They knew they were lying, and they didn't care that they lied. Indiana Democrats hate Hoosiers. They lied. We're not talking about a disagreement in policy here. We're talking about flat out lying about who was in charge and whether or not Joe Biden was capable. Then they bring on Kamala Harris, and Kamala Harris, of course, loses mightily. This brings about the conversation over at CNN. The conversation about Kamala Harris.
To be the nominee, and so yes,
you're not finishing this properly. I was here.
I'm not finishing my thought properly.
Now we're gonna talk about it. They did not run a process. They picked a loser, and she lost, and she got slaughtered because they didn't run a process.
Hold on.
Anybody could have done it.
First of all.
That's exactly what happened. They didn't engage a process. Kevin O'Leary is absolutely right. They picked a loser, and she got slaughtered. That's what happened. And CNN now wants to argue this. Now, I think I've got this all clear, but finger on the dump button there, producer Carl, just in case. You never know.
Let's just make sure that we maintain some respect for Kamala Harris.
The former vice president of the United States.
I think referring to her as a loser.
She was never elected in a process.
I think
Yes,
referring to her as a loser
she
is
should have run against
disrespectful.
other contenders.
And I think that we need to make sure that we have
that goes back to the. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
After Biden dropped out, I mean, he did basically disappear. He did show up at the convention, but from the point at which he dropped out of the campaign, he basically disappeared. And then after the election day, between that and the inauguration, he really disappeared. And I just think there are legitimate questions about at that point. If he was not fit to run for office, I argued at the time he was not fit to serve in the office at the time, yet he was not in the public eye. Decisions were being made. Monumental policy decisions were being made.
All that is very true, and I'm going to get into it. But the idea that somehow you have to give respect to the former vice president of the United States, would any of these people give respect to the current president of the United States? They're asking for something that they would never give, which is a pretty interesting thing to see. But what they're doing is they're trying to somehow keep from accepting the fact that everything that O'Leary said is accurate. There was no primary. There were no votes for Kamala Harris. There was no desire. There was no want. And everything they said about joy and vibes was garbage. It was a lie. Just like the lie of Joe Biden is competent and running the country. Oh, he runs rings around us. We can't keep up with him. The things that they are trying to do, still unwilling to recognize what happened. And it goes back to something we've been talking about. They can't learn because they won't learn, and they won't learn because they can't. It's not actually one or the other. It's both. It is a vicious, vicious cycle, which I assume is exactly how a cult works. Matt Baer has traffic. What's up, Matthew?
Looking at southbound 65 south.